I'm not sure what the problem is. That's weird. Sydney Chief is a friend of Gerald's, and Gerald is living in. You're in Alberta, right?
No. Quit swearing at me.
Saskatchewan.
Thank you very much.
Well, Turtle Island, really, right?
Precisely. Well, we'll talk about this later on in the radio program, and what the corporations have done, and we'll probably be discussing that a little later on regarding this.
Yeah, I want to start out with nuclear war. I think that's a pretty hot topic. What do you think of that?
Well, definitely so. Definitely so.
Oh, God. If I can hang on.
I believe that John Paul is on and Sydney's on.
Let's hope so.
Are you there, Sydney?
I keep losing Sydney. Sydney. Oh. Yeah, Jean Paul, are you there, brother?
Hello. I'm here.
You here? I mean, there's no rush if you need a few minutes to get ready. I don't want to rush you. But I think you forgot about the time differential, right?
I thought it was when is it on?
We're on right now, brother.
It's
at 10 p.m. Eastern. And you're, 8 o'clock out there where you are?
Yes. Yeah, 8 o'clock Saskatchewan time.
Yeah, you're not far from Gerald.
Hi, Gerald.
A hop, skip, and a jump, yep.
Yeah.
How are you doing there?
Yeah, Jean-Paul is interesting guy. Jean-Paul Baptiste is he's kind of like a psychic. First time I met Jean-Paul, he sort of like did a psychic scan of me. I could actually feel him looking at me, my aura, my soul. It was kind of cool. So he's quite a talented chap, that Jean-Paul Baptiste.
Thank you, Brian.
Oh, you're most welcome. Sydney, I don't know what we're going to do with Sydney. We can't seem to hang on to Sydney. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Well, he's on.
Yeah, but he keeps dropping off.
Well, he's still on.
Sydney,
are you there, Sydney?
I think there's an issue with maybe his phone line or something, because he keeps dropping off, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I'm going to... I don't know if you can call him, Gerald, and ask him to stop calling in, because it's going to interrupt the show if he keeps calling in. Okay?
Well, I don't have long distance.
Can you call him? Where does he? I thought you were just chatting with him on the phone.
I know, but I told you I don't have long distance, but my daughter does.
Okay, we'll ask her to call him and ask him to stop calling in because there's something wrong with the connection. Tell him I'm sorry, but he's tried 5 times and we just can't pick him up. It's kind of odd. So Jean-Paul.
Okay.
So Jean-Paul, how's it going, brother?
Oh, it's going pretty good. You know, I'm still doing the thing in Saskatchewan here, Saskatchewan, Canada.
Hello.
Saskatoon. Yes, I'm in Saskatoon right now. Yes.
Yeah, Brian says not to bother because it's bothering the station.
Gerald's talking to his friend Sydney Chief. Unfortunately, Sydney is living in the boonies and has a very poor connection.
Yeah, that's how it is living up here in the sticks.
Well, Saskatoon's not that remote, but Gerald's more remote than you are.
Yes, he is. I know. That's okay here.
Yeah, you're living in the big city.
I don't know. I don't know if you call it a big city, but it's larger than some.
Yeah. So what? Tell the listener what you do, brother. What got you interested? Why do we connect?
We connect. You and I. We connect because there's a soul connection with you and I, and we can even go further in saying that there's a soul connection with everybody. With Gerald. With pretty much everybody I talk to. You know, it's all about remembering who you are. You know, I am from the Native community, but I was raised outside of it. For me, I was raised outside of it, and then but that's how I become, because my own perspective is to be on the outside looking in, right? So I cannot be part of that modality of being on the reserve, and how I know this is from my spirit, from my higher self. And let's say I'd woken up, and that's, it happens. It's happening a lot. There's several stories that, sometimes it's, I don't know, it's like a switch. It, you know, it's not like I've been switched on, but it was more of a gradual pieces of a puzzle over the years. And then one day, all those puzzles kind of lined up, and then it woke me up. Then once your heart is awakened, it talks to you. It tells you, hey, what the hell are you doing? It says these simple things that resonates, within me. And then from there, it just grew and grew.
But you have a special talent. A lot of people, I think they sense things around, but you actually see spirit all the time, right?
Oh yes, yes. You can see it and feel it. It's I'm a big dreamer. I always dream of. Sometimes it depends. I dream about my local reality. Like Saskatoon, my home reserve. Um, I'm from Little Pine, actually, and that's where I'm from.
Gerald, what's the name of your reserve?
Well, there's different names to it, but the thing that's my reserve is really well known is it's called Sandy Lake,
Oh,
and other people called it Atacaco Preserve.
Atacaco.
Hello,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Atacaco. Yeah.
Okay. And Atacaco means sandy lake?
No, Sandy Lake. The Cree word for that is Oskaugamak, and this is where we can get into semantics. What John Paul is talking about, this energy that he was waking up to. This is what the elders said when I was growing up. I was born in 1949, and during that particular time period, there was some dramatic changes happening celestially in regards to the whole star alignment, and we'll be getting into that more deeper. And it's just like a radio program. You can tune it into the different frequencies. Now, according to creation and according to the ancient documents, is that we have an access of tapping into 9 frequencies. And it so happened, like we can get into the deep parts of everything in regards to quantum physics and quantum mechanics in science, biology, blah, 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 everything that the whole institution of learning is teaching. But
Well,
the ancient knowledge,
Gerald, what are the 9 frequencies? Do you remember them all? They're like different dimensions of reality, right?
well, definitely, if you want to investigate this whole aspect, I suggest that you go into the 528revolution.com. The person who uh, started that radio program is a guy by the name of Dr. Len Horowitz,
Oh yeah.
and Len Horowitz is a Jewish guy who believes in the Creator's Son, who died on a cross and resurrected again, and he was in was contacted by an individual, and this individual had a personal experience of people call him Jesus, but I call him Yeshua. And Jesus approached him, and Jesus told him that there was hidden codes within the Bible, and this has to do with the special frequencies that every creation like what John Paul is talking about, is all of a sudden he woke up to that. It's just like the creator, the elders, well, let me just say it this way. The elders, when I was growing up, said this was going to happen because we who were growing up at that particular point in time was referred to the seventh generation. And the seventh generation are going to encounter exactly what John Paul is talking about. Somehow or other, just all of a sudden they're going to wake up. And the very fact that what John Paul is talking about, he just tapped into it, and all of a sudden it became a part of him. Everything that John Paul is talking about is what the elders explained to me when I was growing up. And this is the lifestyle, and this is what their culture, their language on the land. They practice ceremonies, they practice their language, they practice their songs. Everything that was connected to creation through ceremonies was done in that way. In other words, what they were doing was they were tapping into the pyramid power of energy. And when they did that, what they produced was what they call a standing column wave. Scientifically, this is what I'm saying. But what I'm saying about the standing column wave, in the Hebrew language, it's called the Shekinah glory. And the Shekinah glory is the feminine energy that the women is tapping into. So nowadays, what's happening is a lot of women are waking up just exactly what John Paul is experiencing, and the sacred feminine is going to return into their proper place. So historically, and in regards to our own culture, and I don't want to be specific in regards to that. I'm just saying that the red, the yellow, the blackened people, the sacred feminine is going to return. And it's going to be put back into its proper place. So with what you're talking about is we're experiencing a paradigm shift in our own minds. And let me just remind the listeners and what I'm talking about, and I'm sure each one of you has seen this movie, The Matrix. Right, Brian?
Oh yeah, I've seen. I think what there are three or four of them. I think I've seen. Yeah, I've seen like three, anyways.
Well,
Yeah.
well, let's find out and dissect it to see exactly what it means.
Well, just
To
a
see
sec.
exactly what John Paul is.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
ask
go
Jean
ahead.
Paul what his view is on what you're saying. Jean Paul, what's your view on what Gerald's saying? Are you feeling a change in the consciousness? Are you feeling a return to the sacred feminine and that energy?
Oh yes, I did have definitely references to it, and they are from the spirit, of course. As for well, I have a vision that I would like to share. If you gave me some time, I would have it.
Oh, I love to give you some time. That's why you're on the show, brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
Share your vision.
Okay, now, see, now as beings, we live in the past, present, future, right? That's a given. We are multi-dimensional beings, and you see, a long time ago, I couldn't talk about this, but now it's common knowledge, in our circles, I guess, eh? But however, it's however, maybe on the reserve, or but people still talk about this, and behind closed doors, they do, but in Facebook or in social media, it's not really, it's not really the thing to do. But so,
Well,
anyways,
it's a lot on certain shows on Revolution Radio. I'll tell
oh
you.
yes, oh of course, it's very common here, of course. It's very common here. So let me continue. I don't know when it was. Like I do have dreams and memories, but I get them mixed up sometimes, because sometimes they are just memories, and it's a one big humongous memory. So this particular memory, it was I'm in the future now, right? We are in the future. This was about, I believe it happened after the economic collapse, right? So the economic collapse happened. The Mother Earth, their storms and everything else occurred, and they subsided. I'm walking in the street. I look like a hobo actually, and but I'm okay. There's people, milling about. The sun is out. It's very nice out. The streets are they're looking very very dirty. Leaves on it. There's people out, and I'm walking towards this old radio station. So I'm walking there, and I see a big group of people there. They weren't protesting, or they weren't like afraid, or nothing, because as I'm walking, I'm looking at things, and I'm getting a description of what's going on, right? That's how I do it, right? I focus my attention on it, and there's a voice in my head saying, that person is not afraid. That person is not hungry, but he wants answers, right? That's what's going on now. So I'm walking. I see the station. There's lots of people there. So I go inside the front door, right? I go inside the front door. There's this kind of a bigger native lady there, right? And there's lots of people outside, right? I'm gonna say the city was kind of maybe it could have been Saskatoon. I don't know. But it was Saskatoon size. And I go inside this radio station, and I see all these women, these ladies were milling about, and I'm looking around and say, "Where am I?" I don't know. I just don't know. And I go on there's some steps, and I go on top of the I don't know, higher steps, I guess. And I look to my right, and there was a lady and a newswoman. She's interviewing her, and I look at it and said, "Well, that's pretty cool." And I seen this one little kid walking by, and I noticed that there's no men nowhere. Then all of a sudden this lady, she was kind of a bigger lady. She was native. She had black hair. She was kind of overweight, but she was very, very highly spiritual woman. She was really. It was so much so that her face was covered. Right? Maybe my spirit didn't let me see her, but she was. I knew she was very special. Right? And right away she told me she was the boss. That was she was in charge, and everybody knew that, right? So I'm looking at her, and she tells me, she says, she mentioned, oh, you're here. She says, your interview is in 5 minutes. You better get ready. And I look, and then she keeps on talking. She says, you need new clothes. And then she mentioned her other counterparts, some ladies, get them some clothes, right? So they all, a couple ladies, they just jump up, and they're like moving around me, but she continues on, and she says, you are my spokesperson, she said. And I said, wow, I wasn't saying nothing. I was just I was communicating telepathically to her, right? So I'm standing there, and I don't know what to say. Like I look to her, I look to that the first two ladies having an interview, and I look at her, and then I look at them and said, you know what, I can't do that. It's not me. I'm not. Obviously I don't have the looks, you could say. Or the voice, and I had some doubt on me, and and then she said, like, you are my spokesperson, and that was it. I dropped my feelings, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this. Next thing I know, I was all changed up. I had a beautiful shirt on. I remember the shirt. I remember the collar. The collar was up, so I was putting my collar down because she meant that I was due to have this interview, because the reason she wanted the interview is that I noticed too. I was searching, you know, and see, don't forget that still exists right now. So I can go there now and still be there. So so what I'm getting there is that the people are okay, right? I mean, with food wise, medical supplies, you know, it's okay. You know, they got outside help. You know, so that's not the problem in the future, right? People think that, oh my God, we're gonna starve to death. No, that's totally wrong. The problem is in the future is that they're gonna need information, you know, because these people, you know, came out of anywhere and now they're milling about and they want answers, and that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to, you know, give the people answers, right? She was in charge. There were men there, but they weren't in control. They were like half shells. You know, they felt guilty, shame. You know, in a place where it's supposed to be abundance, and that's why I tell these people around me, like the men part, quit doing what you're doing because it's going to affect you. You know, they don't know, but at the same time, it's that old law, that old unwritten law about, you know, do no harm, right? You know, and experience is their experience, but I know I try
Well,
to.
why don't we love each other instead of not doing harm? I mean, why don't we lift the vibration even higher? Let's love each other. Let's try to help each other.
Well, it's possible, but you know what though? What I learned, it's you got to do the heart. You know, you have to clear the heart and you have to reach it, and that's the key to
Yeah.
everything. You know, because we can say everything we want, we can do anything we want. You know, it's the heart. You know, and I think Gerald wants to say something.
Yeah, love is the soil for all good things. Okay, Gerald, come on in here, and that's what Yeshua represents. Yeshua is as close as you can get to the love of the universe, in my opinion. Okay, Gerald, come on in. That's a beautiful story there, Jean Paul. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, the experiences that John Paul is experiencing is very reminiscent to us what's happening to a lot of our people here in Saskatchewan, and not only that, but Manitoba, Alberta, British Columbia, and there's a major awakening in regards to this. And you said something very important, Brian, and that's love. Did you know that love is 528 hertz?
Well, I've heard that. Yeah, I've
And
heard
that,
the notion there's a frequency to it. Yeah, yeah. But the actual number, I didn't know what it was. Yeah.
and so this is a love frequency. And what John Paul is talking about regarding the seventh generation, and in the seventh generation, we were told that there's going to be indigo children that are going to be born who have special spiritual abilities, and that also the rainbow warriors are going to come in. This is very much in line with what the Mayan people talk about in regards to their calendar. The specific date I'm talking about is December the 21st, 2012. Earlier before this, there's a guy by the name of Jose Argolas down in the States, and he started what they call a harmonic convergence, a preparation for a paradigm shift that we are going to connect to major energy surges with, and we're going to come to the conscious level of it. Now, these 9 frequencies is precisely what the ancient cultures have been talking about wherever they may live on Mother Earth. These ancient cultures knew, and they got that information from the source, and the source is the Creator, and the Creator gave them these 9 frequencies to be able to tap into this information what John Paul is talking about. And there's a major awakening that is happening right now as we speak. And a lot of people who are listening understand exactly what it is that I am talking about. And you were talking about the energy of love. We should learn to love each other. That's out of the question, Brian. It's an automatic thing.
It should be like breathing.
The Creator is love.
It should be like breathing, Gerald.
Well, not only that, it's what God created for His children, and He's blessing us with all this energy. In the teachings of the circle, what goes around comes around. We're in that time limit, in time and space, where we're going to come back to the beginning, and we're going to experience the very things that the first man and the first woman experienced in the Garden of Eden. We're going back to that. And so what we're talking about here, and earlier in the radio program, you mentioned something about radioactivity. Now, I don't know if you guys watched that video about this individual that was talking about the Great Turtle Island and about the energy centers that are on North America in particular, as referenced to a specific species of turtle. And on a turtle shell, it has 13 segments. On the outside of the turtle shell has 28, and of course with the head and the 4 paws, the back, hind legs, and the tail is 6.
Yeah, you're talking about Jacob
So
Jacob Wawati. I just want to let people know what this video is. It's called The Story of Turtle Island as perceived by Jacob Wawati, W-A-W-A-T-I-E. Look that up on YouTube, folks. It's a beautiful hour video. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Okay, go ahead, Gerald.
Okay, whatever Jacob is talking about is pretty well the information that we understood before the Europeans arrived here and upset the apple cart. And because of the things that are happening regarding these Europeans that landed here were very bad news to begin with. These people that arrived here, according to the elders' teachings, they have said they are hybrids. In other words, they were products of the fallen angels, and they came into our land because what John Paul is talking about, when you were saying something to the effect, Brian, when you mentioned that you could see spirits. Yes, he can, and we all can. Every one of us is incredible beings indeed. So the bottom line is, a common denominator is this effort from the Creator saying, know thyself. Everything within our human bodies, what's created outside us is already there in creation. What we need to do is have the journey within, exactly what John Paul is talking about, is all of a sudden it comes just like a switch has been turned on. And when the switch is turned on, lo and behold, that energy is just like watching a TV program or listening to a radio or tuning into a cell phone or going into your computer. The fact of the matter is, yes, that's man-made technology. All this technology that I'm talking about, the indigenous people, whether you're red, yellow, black, or white, knew this, and they knew that they were biological computers with all the capabilities of acquiring these skills to be able to follow these principles that the Creator has blessed us with, to be able to honor Mother Earth. So what I mean when I was talking about the return of the sacred feminine, we all know for a fact when these bad people arrived here, and when the bad people arrived in their own country, in Europe, in China, in Africa, these evil people try to repress and suppress the feminine energy that was so critical to our understanding here on earth. The very fact of the matter is, in the ancient teachings, when you listen to the teachings of the sacred feminine, you begin to understand that the woman has been given that task to teach every child that comes in here and when born to this physical world, to teach them about the physical world. That has been taken away from the women and replaced by a false religious system that runs contrary to this and destroyed it. So, of course, that caused a lot of damage in every part on Mother Earth, whether you're red, yellow, black, and white. We all experience the human condition, which is pain, suffering, fear, all the evil energy that they're perpetuating. Now, I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty, and I'm going to identify right now where that energy is coming from right now.
The dark energy.
The dark energy is coming from Saturn, the Lord of the Rings. The fallen Lucifer is living inside Saturn right now with all the rest of the fallen angels. And because of the outside rings of it, the outside rings is frequency that is being produced and it's going out in space and it's reaching the moon. But they have controlled the moon. They have taken away the power of the women regarding the moon cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn has taken away from that, is controlling the moon right now. And you know that the god of sin, you know what the god of sin is? It's the moon. And the Muslim people are the ones that are worshiping the moon god. So now they control the moon. Now, because they have acquired and captured the sacred feminine, they have used that weapon against the women to make the family very dysfunctional. And in this dysfunction, a lot of people have suffered greatly because of it. Now, through Saturn to the moon to Earth is where that evil energy is coming, and this, when it reaches here on Earth, that's what we call the matrix. The matrix that we are stuck into, that we're forced into, is a cube. And we are stuck in this cube. Now, what John Paul is talking about, he's experiencing some freedom because he's out of that cube. It was that time for him to be able to go there outside of himself to be free, because the truth has set him free. He began to recognize that now this is what's happening to a lot of people all over the world. And the energy is, you can't stop it. So the dark side is getting very jittery, and they're getting very, very scared. Because a lot of people are waking up to that conscious level. In other words, what that means, what I am trying to say is this. Brian and Jean Paul, to be completely free, to be able to speak for yourself, to be able to do things on yourself without any interference, outside interference, from the government, from religion, from the economy, from the education for their destiny, which spells the greed principle, to be completely free of their shackles, to be completely free from bondage. This is this energy that the elders were talking about that we're going to experience. And it's an explosion now. You can't stop it because, why? Because the Creator said. Yes, the Creator said, and the Creator gave this message to our elders. Whether you're red, yellow, black, or white, the elders were told. So they told their people what to expect. But not very many people would talk to the elders because everybody is geared towards the matrix. Oh, but they sure in the heck talk about these people in the institution of learning, people with impeccable degrees behind their names, PhD, master degree, so on and so forth. And, well, by the way, gentlemen, I have a PhD degree too, and it's called crapology. And maybe I should turn the tables on them and see
I'll
that.
tell you this, our Western science systems have messed up this planet so badly. It's obvious that there's something wrong with our knowledge systems.
Well, it doesn't bother us, John Paul and I. Let them go ahead and destroy the world. But we and John Paul and yourself, Brian, who is conscious level, is that we're going to escape it because we know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You said it. You said it, Brian. You said love. What it would be like? What would it be like to love your enemy? To use that energy and change the paradigm and persuade them that whatever you're doing is you're walking in darkness. How would you like to get out of it? Because it's only a few people that are controlling the world through Saturn, the moon, and the matrix. Through money.
The money
right?
god. Mammon.
Money god.
Mammon.
Mammon. Yes.
It's all in the Bible. I just want to tell people, Gerald, I'm so impressed with you because you're one of the few people I know who's native, who still sees the truth of the Bible, despite the fact that the Jesuits came here and annihilated your whole way of life. 1,200 nations. Not everyone has gone under, but you admit most of your own people are living in the matrix, and they are yet to be liberated. So I have to give you high marks for seeing through all this nonsense and still believing in the message of the Bible.
Bingo. And John Paul knows what I'm talking about regarding energy. The energy, okay, when I'm talking about the Bible, in the Bible there's hidden codes in there, and everything boils down to the Bible, astrotheology, and also mathematics and science. But the religious denominations like the Roman Catholic and all the daughters of the Roman Catholic Church have perverted that, have they not?
Most definitely, most definitely. Okay, let's let Jean Paul chat for a bit here. Jean Paul,
go
do you
ahead.
relate to what Gerald's saying, or do you want to talk more about your beautiful futuristic? So you're saying you're not dreaming this; you're actually just literally going there in your conscious state of mind.
Yes. It's there already. Like we are multidimensional beings. We exist everywhere. It's hard to fathom, but we do. Like I don't know. Like we all have our references to such events. I'm sure you dreamt of one time you're laying down, you're having a dream, you're in the dream, but at the same time you're in your body. it's very common.
Yeah. Well, I kind of I'm not sure I get into the astral plane as well as you do. I'm up higher most of the time. Um,
Uh,
I'm more connected to like creator beings and stuff like that. So I don't experience the astral as much as some people, and I kind of envy you in a way. I don't see spirit around me, but I feel them. They send me vibrations. That's how they connect with me.
oh yeah, I can definitely hear them. You can feel them on the heart, in the arms, and the legs, in the
Yeah.
solar plexus. All these energy centers that everybody has. Right? Of course, there's 7 of them.
Yeah, we all have our different. The reason we need to create the family of families is because God didn't make us all fully complete. He made us so that we needed each other to work together to achieve what we're supposed to achieve here. And one of the great lessons is how to work together as a tribe, how to create that tribal consciousness.
Oh yes, I agree. So, and that's the lessons that we're learning right now is how to, uh, you know, how to take our time and learn. Everybody, the whole planet.
Well, I think it's kind of cool because I've got my sister here and her husband, and they're very much tied to the Matrix in a lot of ways. But they see the need to detoxify everything, and they don't quite understand what I'm trying to do. But they themselves, even though they're tied very strongly into it, they understand some of what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. No.
Okay, in order to
Go ahead, Brian.
No, Gerald, go ahead, Gerald.
Sorry, yeah.
in order to address the question on your family, Brian, we need to come to terms with this aspect of truth. Every man, woman, and child that has been born here on this physical earth, in time and space, there is a book written about you,
Oh
and
yes.
that book is in heaven. And that book is in heaven. The question is, are your books opened? John Paul's book is opened. Brian's book is opened. In other words, there's a Cree word that I could use in order to explain this, and the word is Ewinemagewen. Means that the whole idea about predestination, that the Creator has planned every day of your life what is written in the book to be able to follow precept upon precept, principle upon principle, by learning to do what John Paul is doing, and to learn what Brian is doing, is you need to have your book open and not to be structured according to the matrix. To be free from that, to be free from the cube,
Yeah.
to
See,
be able to come to the.
yeah, they see everything in terms of money, and this is a block for them. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
They only think in terms of.
Like there's an interesting scripture in the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 6, verse 13 or 14, and it says, if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. But if your eye is evil, your whole body will be filled with darkness. And how great is that darkness? Nobody can serve two masters. You either hate the one or love the other. You will hold to the one and despise the other. Nobody can serve God or mammon. Mammon, you know what it is. It's money. So within the matrix itself, they have utilized the power of money, and the laws that are based behind that is David is pretty well familiar with this, the Bar Association. But who controls the Bar Association?
David William, who's been on the show many times, folks. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And also the 13 satanic bloodlines, who are the offspring of the fallen angels who constructed and developed the matrix to keep us into servitude so that we become slaves to serve them. This is the whole problem that we're encountering now. But what John Paul is saying, no, that's not the answer. But the answer is I'm experiencing something different. This different is I'm experiencing the energies that are around me through earth, wind, water, and fire, and the ether, through animals, birds, sea creatures, plants and trees, insects, and reptiles. Now, can you imagine just for a moment, even if you do not believe, but I will make this point. Okay, let's talk about heaven, where the Creator, the intelligent designer of all creation, sits there. Can you imagine that the original things that he created are already in heaven? They're all there.
Oh, yeah.
And everything that's in heaven is also on earth. So what John Paul is experiencing, the frequency to be able to enable him to see these things in a far better way, that he has the freedom to experience and go to these different dimensions. And the energy that's behind it is this 528 hertz. The color of it is green, and it's the middle chakra, which is the heart chakra. And 528 hertz specifically targets the heart. And when you open the door to your heart, which is the key of David, the heart of mercies, when you open up your heart to the possibilities and escape the matrix, you're free to do so. So these are the things that what John Paul and I are talking about, and also with you, Brian, is now we begin to experience a paradigm shift. We are no longer follow the constructs of what the matrix is producing, and we can see exactly where the faults are and where they have went wrong. Am I correct in that assessment, Brian?
Yeah, I think that defeating the money god and seeing how it encourages all the bad things here on earth, that this is a huge step forward in clarity in the mind, and it really does release the heart. I promote a green money because green money will detoxify and renaturalize all processes. Now, maybe it'll happen just through some sort of consciousness awakening. I'm not as concerned about that right now, but I do think that I'm getting a sense that what we talked about after our last show with David was this notion of this nuclear magnetic pulse is going to take out all the modern stuff, and then we're going to have to go back to the garden whether we like it or not. And we're going to get back to the mother that way. I think that's going to be part of the solution.
Exactly. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the very energy that's coming from Saturn is it's producing an electromagnetic pulse. It's going to the moon, and from the moon to the earth, and it's affecting all people, whether you're red, yellow, black, or white.
Okay, we're going to pick this up after the break, folks. Fascinating discussion of consciousness change happening on planet Earth. Okay, back soon, folks, with more of Welcome, everyone, back to I'm Nature. I'm your host, Brian Porter, and I have two great native wisdom keepers here, Gerald Whitehorse Standing and Jean-Paul Baptiste. It sounds like he's a priest, but actually he's a native sort of clairvoyant psychic sort of guy. And hey, on the break, I was chatting with David William too, so he might even join us. He's another a great thinker, very well aligned person. He certainly sees through the matrix. So, but this is the time of show where I usually put my plug-in out for subscribing to the archives at Revolution Radio. It's $5 a month. It really helps to support the station. I actually have to pay for the archives, folks, too. So I'm not off the hook. I think it's definitely worth it to get access to 80 shows, download them at your leisure, listen to them on your cell phone or on your computer whenever you feel like, listening to a show. I mean, Jean-Paul, what's your favorite show on Revolution Radio? What's that other show you like to listen to?
There's a few of them. I like Andrew Bartzett.
That's
the one, yeah. I like him. Douglas Dietrich's. Yeah, he's pretty good.
What time is Andrew's show on? I must admit, I've never actually listened to his show.
Actually, I was a guest on. I was a caller on his show August 1st. I'm the first caller, and it's about me, what I do. It's about natives too. Yeah, there's some personal issues in there, but that's okay.
No, is he on at noon? Is that time?
He's on Mondays at 12 o'clock my time.
Your time, so 2 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, and then I think he's another show on Sunday as well.
What's the name of his show?
Adventures in Reality.
Okay. Cool. So there's another show for you, host, folks, that you might want to get the archive for, because it's hard to listen to all the shows when you're working during the day if you have a job. So it's great to have the archive, guys. So please subscribe. $4.99 a month. You support the station, and Hawk works really hard at creating this beautiful double platform station. Telling you, we have a lot of amazing hosts on this network. So please support Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com on your computer. Okay, so let's get back to the issue of seeing through the matrix, connecting with this energy emanating from the higher realms, from heaven, or whatever you want to call it, folks. And Jean-Paul wanted to move in on the discussion. Gerald was leading us in a very sort of well-synchronized direction there. But Jean-Paul, what do you say about this whole concept of an awakening happening in our consciousness on planet Earth right now?
Well, first of all, it was planned. That's the thing. It was planned, and who planned it was us. The people who are listening, me, you, everybody. We planned it. And sure, it was planned. The bad way sometimes. Sure, sometimes you are the bad person and you are the good person, but it was definitely planned. It's all about vibration, right? Vibration is important as well. If you ask if you ask to shift with the energy shifts, it'll help people move through it with more ease, reduce the anger, chaos that tries to grab our energy when we're aware of incoming energies. It is key, I think, to raise it, because I always come back to my other aspect is about the heart. If we can raise our heart even just a little bit, the frequency, and it is a vibration, where everything vibrates. I'm sure you heard that before, and you probably discussed it before. That with, like I said,
it determines everything. I mean, yes. The vibration that you live in determines how you see your reality. It's Einstein was right. It's completely relative. Everything.
Yeah. And these lower vibrations were these parasites. Let's face it. There's lots of evil things here, right? There's parasitic. In another realm that they attach you, and yes, they siphon your energies off, and this and that, and it's a whole new thing, and then once and once you live in the matrix, if you live in the matrix, you don't see it. You cannot see that. You cannot grasp it because something inside you is saying, hey, don't listen. you know
Well, you're kind of limited in your perspective. You're like I say, you're drawn very much to the money god in all your motivation and all your decision making is tied to making money or not spending money or worrying about debt, and it's a very parasitical kind of energy that distracts us from God and the higher realms.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Andrew Bartlett. I do follow his work quite a bit, and he mentioned about free will, right? And he's so right about having about losing our free will, and that's what happens when you get born. Your free will is automatically gone. As with your guest before, David, he mentioned about birth certificates, and everything falls together. Everything. You can piece everything together. If you have all the puzzles laying before you, you can piece everything together as a system of domination and control, and that's what it is. You got the matrix as in perception wise, right? And it is a control. Obviously, it is control because you don't see the big picture. You never can see the big picture.
Well, you don't see outside of the matrix.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the issue. So you don't see solutions, and you don't see a way of doing anything other than for money. I keep telling people, everybody says I don't work because I don't make money. I said, I laugh at them. I said, no, I work harder than almost everybody I know because I'm not paid to do what I do. I do it because I love you, I love the planet, and I want to fix it. So just because I'm not paid doesn't mean I'm not doing work. And it's actually important work, a lot more important than earning money. Because almost everything we do to earn money is destructive to the planet right now. Yeah.
Oh yes, it is.
It's a tough concept, though, for people to grasp. If you're not earning money, you're actually not working. It really is difficult, especially my kids.
Yeah, no, it's because that's how it's run. It is a system, and it's horrible. You got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go work. Sure, you might have some time later on, but life is about abundance. Life is about relaxing, and it's not about running yourself to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Gerald, what do you have to say about the fact that people don't understand that working on your spiritual development is work versus going to making the mighty dollar, the almighty dollar, that it actually is really, in a lot of ways, is a demonic energy?
Well, there is a soul elder that was pretty well famous in our part of the country. His name was the great late Meredith Quinn.
Oh, yes.
And he got his teachings from the ancient teachings that his people held. And also with the Cree Nation, also the same thing. So what Meredith Quinn said is that we're fighting against mind control, implements of war and destruction, and police action. But who are the people that are perpetuating that? Are the other side. The spiritual forces of darkness and evil that are in control of the mammon or the money. The people who are controlling and pulling the strings politically in every part of Mother Earth, they receive their information from the fallen angels who are flying all over in the sky and is on earth and under the earth.
Yeah, sometimes I
The
can feel
reason
the
why,
pressure. I can feel the pressure from them trying to change me, convince me to change my mind.
bingo, that's precisely exactly the thing that I want to point on, is you find some kind of a force that is trying to force you to chase after earthly and worldly things that they have developed within the matrix. And in particular, it's geared towards the acquisition of material objects that money can provide. In the status quo, these are the people who are striving for those very things that we're talking about in regards to acquiring material possessions and money, gold, silver, all the precious metals. They're the ones that are controlling it. Who are these people? These people, after the flood, in regards to the Sumerian tablets, you can read that online and Google that, and you can find a lot of information regarding this on YouTube to investigate this very aspect of it. And they have books that they have written in regards to starting this whole aspect. I try to create two divisions of people. They become the masters, we become the slaves, debit and credit, solvent and insolvent, but you pretty well get the general picture and exact what I'm trying to say to you, right? So to keep
No,
us
I think it's
subservient.
extremely powerful. And then you add the legal system. Holy,
Yes.
you're locked in.
Now,
You're locked in, and they have you completely under their power.
okay, I'm glad that you mentioned that. There's two words that you should pay attention to, and please do your homework regarding what I'm going to say. The two words in particular that you pay attention is lawful and legal. Lawful has to do with the spirit. So what you are experiencing, Brian and John Paul, is based on the spirit, the Creator's law. You are operating within the spirit using those spiritual laws in regards to creation to enable you to work whatever is inside of you and to produce what they call the law of attraction. If inside of yourself, like I said before in the Bible, it says when your eye is single, which is your pineal gland, if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. Now, how do you produce that light? According to the ancient documents and our teachings of our people, whether you're red, yellow, black, and white, they know that sound, vibration, and frequency produces the light. So here we're in the realm of science. Here we're in the realm of biology. Here we're in the realm of chemistry. All these subject matters that we're talking about that's taught in the whole educational system, but it's based on them. The people that I'm pointing out is the 13 satanic bloodlines that were created according to what it says on the Sumerian tablets. And the whole thing started, now, with Saturn, I said before. Did you know Saturn now, according to the secret societies, Saturn is considered to be the energy of the black sun.
Well, I'll tell you,
upon a
my
time,
friend David William knows a lot about this, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to call him and see if he wants to join us to talk about Saturn. Yeah, okay, keep going. Fascinating subject. Yeah, this is something I just learned about in the last few months. I didn't realize that Saturn was associated with the darkness here.
Oh, indeed it is. Because once upon a time in the past, all the ancient cultures used to say we had two suns up in the sky. The sun that we're living right now, but once upon a time Saturn was like a second sun up in the sky. So they used to worship it. Do you understand?
Oh yeah, I
But
mean
so,
most of the solar systems are a dual sun system in the galaxy.
but that's another thing again. The ancient people know very well on that statement that you made, there is no such thing as a solar system. The ancient people believe that there's no such thing as the Big Bang Theory.
Ah,
And there's no such thing as a theory of evolution that Darwin developed on the origin of species. Study
okay.
them.
Well, that's
Study them in
the oh, I know. I mean, there's so many incredible knowledge systems here that yeah, look at things very differently from Western science and the way I was taught to see things. You're going to get to know Abet Aruz. He's a man who spent all his life traveling across Central and South America, met all the indigenous peoples. He alone in Mexico, he studied with 21 different Mayan cultures. So
yes.
we're gonna have a lot of fun chatting with him and getting his perspective on these things. I had him and James McCanny went out on one of my shows and did their comparative analysis of some of the archaeological sites in Mexico. I mean, this guy is brilliant, and so is James McCanny, by the way. So people, you're really going to learn a lot from watching and listening to my new station, Making a Difference.tv, and it's getting pretty close. Jim Lee's working on it right now as we speak. So
Well,
let's
yeah,
let's welcome
yeah.
David William to the discussion. David, are you there?
Hi.
Hey,
Hello, David.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello,
David,
David.
Hello there, everyone.
yeah, David, what do you have to say about Saturn?
Well, what Gerald just said is not only folklore, it seems to be quite true. Um, Even scientists would be in agreement with that. You know?
Do you agree that CERN was developed to try to attract more darkness to this planet?
That's what I hear from many different angles. The whole thing was a satanic dedication, wasn't it?
Yeah. You see,
Yeah.
the very place where they built CERN was in Switzerland.
Mm,
And so some of it ran into France.
mm,
On that very spot where France, where CERN begins, there's a circle there. That used to be an ancient site to the worship of Apollyon. And who is Apollyon? That's exactly what the Bible specifically talks about, is this destroyer that's going to come, and CERN is trying to open that portal the very same time when, as above, so below, Saturn is above CERN, Switzerland. They're going to open up a portal, send a beam of energy up there, and these beings are going to come down into CERN, and all the fallen angels are going to appear on the physical earth like our people talked about. And this is what John Paul is experiencing. The very fact of the matter is, when we bring this energy into a conscious level, each one of us is going to experience these beings, and we're going to be able to, in other words, what's going to happen is your pineal gland is going to be open to enable you to see spiritual beings. So, in regards to prophecy that our people were talking about, this is the very thing that they're talking about. Whatever's happening to the dark side in these 13 satanic bloodlines, they are working towards this very fact and they're going to do it. Right, David?
Yep, I agree.
Go ahead.
Jean
Go ahead,
Paul,
explain.
Jean Paul, what do you think about CERN?
It's a portal making device. You know, there's lots of evidence to suggest that. If there's some crazy videos out there. You know, there's like CERN itself is a kind of a large city, and this one guy he sat there and he looked at the video like outside of CERN, and nobody was in the streets for hours. Nobody. Like that city is it's you know, don't forget it's in Europe. You know, it's a huge ass city. I mean, sorry, it's heavily populated. And where was everybody? For one thing, and it was broad daylight, and nobody in the streets. You know, he had like a timestamp, and then in the skies there were like portals going off. So yes, they are screwing around with portals that they've been tricked by making, and they think that they're smart. These people think the scientists there, they believe that they are smart, but somebody else is playing them. But at the same time, somebody else is playing them. You know, and that's how it works on this earth. You know, the Gerald mentioned about these esoteric groups, these documents, these things. You know, sure they do exist, but at the same time, you're going to have to go back further, and they're getting played too. You know, and that's just the whole thing. That's just everything. You know, it's like I said, it's a big scope of what's going on, of the fear part of it all.
So Gerald, you think that these demons are going to actually come right here? The whole gang.
Absolutely.
Whole
Yes, because the elders, what they explain to us is when you get to be old, they said, we're going to die. But when you get old, it says, you're literally going to see these beings walking on earth. What kind of beings are we talking about? Exactly what happened in Noah's time about this genetic experience, half human, half animal, half human, half fish, half human, half birds, half human, half insects, half human, half trees and plants, and half reptilians. We're really going to see these beings, and that's exactly what they're fooling around in CERN.
Well,
they're going to open up.
The Pope's given permission to create these beings.
Of course, but we all know for a fact that our ancient people talked very extensively on this subject regarding the Pope, and we knew that it was a false one. And we knew that these people were going to come into our midst in our day and age, and they told us and they warned us. They're coming, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. The reason why that is happening, because the Creator is trying to reach His children, but the children are not listening because a lot of these children are stuck in the matrix. Do you agree with that statement, Dave?
Absolutely. I could even add to it in an abstract kind of a way, though. When people say, for instance, in the courts, now it's going to seem unrelated, but hang on. The courts, you see the guy wears the black robe of Saturn. Satan, Saturn. That's why he deals with the dead. He calls the all caps name, which is the dead guy. Okay? And when you get married, the old tradition of marriage, you wear the rings of Saturn on your finger, right?
And when you graduate,
it's all Baal worship, Ba'Al, Baalzebub. There's nothing new about this information. It's been around for a long time. In fact, that's where the word originally came from for the Bar Association. It got changed into other meanings, like British Accreditation Registry, bank authorized representatives, because that's how they are. They just love those alphabet words. But it originally came from bar, 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 which is ancient, ancient worship of Baal. In Saturn, he's right about it being like a star, the morning star, I guess.
Yep.
And
Did the Baal
Satan was the keeper of the light.
Yeah.
And Gerald has talked about, when Satan was cast down to the earth, there was that's probably when the sun lost its luminescence, because there was like and as Jesus said, or Yeshua in the Bible, he saw Satan come down like bolts of lightning to the earth, and
Correct.
many people believe that's when it happened. So he was cast down here because, well, more of the stories that Gerald tells about how Satan was jealous of God's new position for him to watch over his children, man and woman on earth. And he didn't like that. So, it's all, there's a lot of different directions that verify what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's not just
Can I ask you
folklore.
about the Baal here, guys? I was told by someone that the Baal were on Mars. Is there any truth to that?
Mars is Marduk, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, Marduk, god of war.
But also Marduk is in reference to this individual that was born a long time ago. His name was Nimrod.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
They're all connected. In other words,
yeah.
What we're talking about here is the energy of the dark, the spiritual forces of darkness and evil. These are these beings that are using that against us so that we don't wake up.
Yeah.
And when you do wake up, well, of course they're going to fight against you. They're going to try and do everything and create a situation where what David Icke says, problem, reaction, solution. And they also develop this Hegelian dialectic, to pit one group against another, or thesis, antithesis, equals synthesis. So when you begin to understand the modus operandi on the dark side, what David is talking about in a legal profession, and it's all tied to the bank, money,
debt,
and you see,
debt.
The judge is sitting on a bench.
Bank.
You know what another word for bench is?
Bank. It's the bank.
Oh, yeah?
Because they're not courts, they're banks, but they're really trading houses. They trade counterfeited securities because they post bonds against your dead guy, your straw man, your all caps guy that you see on the driver's license. Right.
The
so
ones that you created in your birth certificate, right?
Yep, which is a death certificate. Yep. It's a death certificate. So they took the decedent, which is the afterbirth that you abandoned at the hospital. And that's the guy that's on the birth certificate. That's why there's black footprints on the back. Black is the sign of death. He's presumed dead, lost at sea. Okay.
But you did something very important, though, David. I would like to bring this attention to the people that are listening. Placenta.
Yes.
Where do you think the placenta, the afterbirth? When I was born, the afterbirth that my mother carried me in her womb has been left to the hospital.
Yes.
What do you think they did with the placenta?
Well, they categorized it and then shipped it off to the Smithsonian because that's the dead guy. That's their prisoner of war.
You got it.
Right. Also, you guys are natives of this land. Used to be years ago, from what I've read, the placenta and the umbilical cord was not cut when a baby was born. It was elevated above the baby and it was kept attached for many, a couple of days, I think. And then I believe the mother ate it.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of midwives package it up so that you can eat it. They dry it and all that, and they make whatever out of capsules out of it. So everything that's happened. Also, when you're born in a hospital, the doctor hangs you upside down by your ankles and lifts you up and offers you to Satan. It's all satanic stuff.
I know, and he slapped you too.
Yeah, it's all
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why you're born as a ward of the state, because you're born in a hospital ward, and the doctor is the dockette. So your mother has water in a birth canal, so she breaks her water and basically takes the baby home, but abandons the bastard child in its birth. So you were born, but the placenta, the birth certificate was when it was birthed on the Gregorian calendar. There's 13 days difference between your born day and the birthday.
There you go.
Right. So all this stuff is not nonsense. It's just that the reason Gerald is saying it, and it sounds so odd, is because everyone forgot. The old timers forgot more than we know now. I mean, none of this tradition has been transferred forward. Also, here's another thing that everyone needs to hear with reflection to this subject. What used to get passed down as information and was ravaged from all parts of history that any stinking satanic Jesuit can find, especially the bar turners, because they're under the Jesuits. They're more ball worshippers. You would make you would do, you know what DBA is, doing business as?
Yes.
You're supposed to do that to the all caps name. So that's what corrects the status in the courts. So whenever you go in the court and you answer to that all caps name, you're perpetrating a massive fraud, because that name is copyrighted. So the bar attorneys don't have a license. That's a big lie. They say practicing law without a license. They have a bar privilege, a union privilege, or copyright privilege to that name if you abandon it. So when you turn 18, you're supposed to correct it if your mother and father didn't do it already. So everything that they do is satanic, and legal means the undoing of God's law. It's in the Encyclopedia Britannica back in 1895.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that in regards to this, gentleman, exactly what David is talking about is the difference between law and legal. Legal means the letter of the law,
Mm-hmm.
the alteration of the law,
Mm.
the
So you have to
color.
DBA the name, by the way.
Oh yeah,
That takes their power away from you. I mean, from them. You that's the very first thing. In fact, I was just talking to a woman today who did that, and she corrected her status as she's both feet on the land now, and she couldn't understand why the court stopped pursuing her for something. So I created an article very recently called it's called "The Proof We Have Been Overthrown by the Bar." That's on thelibertybeacon.com. And this is extremely important information in there for all people, because
indeed.
there are 3 videos in there. One is about the overthrow of America by the bar. In fact, it reared its head officially in 1871. And then the other one is the real meaning behind police power. The police are the army of the judiciary, which doesn't really exist. It's not a judiciary, it's an administrative executive court. It's bankruptcy. So that's what they're doing. They're holding your all caps dead guy, and they're capturing you and holding you as a debtor for the bankruptcy.
In the Matrix,
Gerald,
right?
Gerald,
Yeah.
I just want let's get back then, Jean. I want Gerald and John Paul to speak on this. We had Linda Black on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about this kind of stuff with her. How well is this kind of stuff understood within your Indian community? It's my understanding that it's not well understood.
No, not at all. It's pretty unfortunate though, but it doesn't matter because, like John Paul and yourself, Brian, and you also, Dave, we know that this energy, somehow or other, they're going to tap into it.
Mm.
Because what we're doing right now is we're releasing the frequency, and this frequency is traveling on the airwaves, and all of a sudden people seem to be latching onto it and they're hearing voices. This is the nature of exactly the spiritual beings that we have become and will become, like what John Paul was explaining. So once you begin to access that very information and you have the light inside of you, then that light is it brings you into the truth, so that you can discuss this and you know how to be able to. Well, let me say it this way. We know, Dave, that Saturn to the moon, to the Earth, and in the Earth is the matrix, the power of the cube.
Yep.
Look what's happening in Medina, and what's that other place that the Muslims worship?
That's the Mecca.
Mecca, right?
There's
Thank
the
you very
black
much.
cube of Saturn in there. See, the black cube is the Dark Lord. That's the center of the hexagram. That's the hexagram is a two-dimensional picture of a 3D image called the cube. That's the center of the hexagram, and what people call the Star of David. That was the star that the Romans gave to them. That's a satanic Baal worship symbol. The whole entire Israel is taken over by satanic Khazars. They have no claim to that land at all in Palestine.
Indeed. And what's more important, did you know what they used to call Rome before it was called Rome? Does anybody know?
No.
It was called Saturn.
Oh,
You're kidding.
boy. Sure. I believe it.
Yes.
How long
Because
ago
on that, pardon me?
How long ago was that when they called it Saturn?
Well, that was in the old times. In regards to when they used to worship Saturn, when Saturn was the second sun, and it seemed to lose. What David was explaining about when they seen Lucifer falling down, it lost the energy of it. It went into the black sun.
Okay.
So all this information that we're talking about has been, can I say that it was taught to the people here through the 13 satanic bloodlines, and the 13 satanic bloodlines occupied top positions of power in politics, in policy making, and police action. These three things are protected by them. Isn't that right, David?
Yes, their names are generally unknown. Everyone thinks it's Rothschild, but it isn't. You have House of Medici, House of Aldobrandini, House of Somalia, House of Orsini. These are all the pharaonic bloodlines. And that's why a lot of them are in Switzerland, which is Sisters of Isis, and then that particle collider accelerator goes into France, like Gerald was saying, and what's Paris? Par-Isis. It's ISIS. And Switzerland is Sisters of Isis. So this was no mistake that they did it like that. So that's where all the I guess that when they killed the Templars, the new ones, the fake ones, they're all up in Switzerland. The Templars were hiding all of their stuff up in those mountains. And when Gerald said something about Saturn being the name of Rome, I do know that the people before Rome was even inhabited by the people that are in there now. I guess it was not the Hebrews, but the Judeans, I guess.
Guys, why did they build that tunnel in Switzerland through the mountain? Is there some significance to that with respect to the darkness in these cults?
Oh, indeed it is. Indeed, that's interesting that you say that, because let us just refer to the obelisk in Washington, D.C. And the obelisk in Washington, D.C., of course, it was constructed by the Masonic Lodge for their own purposes. But the obelisk is a phallic symbol. Excuse me if I have to say this, though, but an erection,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's 555 feet above the Earth, and the total dimensions of it is 666 feet. 555 is above the Earth, and 111 is down below. And the way that the streets were constructed, through the Capitol building, the White House, Lincoln Memorial, and Jefferson Memorial, and below Jefferson Memorial is the Pentagon. And you know what a Pentagon is? So when the sun goes down, what these people doing in these secret societies, they go under Lincoln's Memorial and they ride a boat in what they call the River Styx, right below the 111. And that's another number that is very sacred to them, is 111. But
Or 11-1?
right below,
11-1, Gerald?
yes.
Yeah,
Or
that's the Day of the Dead in the Gregorian calendar.
Thank you very much.
11/11 is approaching, guys. 11,
Yeah, it is.
You got it.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think they call it Remembrance Day on the 11th month, on a time 11 o'clock? You know what I mean? 11/11/11.
Yeah.
Remembrance Day, their Remembrance Day is they're going to remember all the sacrifices that they made in all the major wars that they conducted on Earth. Because to them, war is profit. It's making money. And you know that these bankers made a lot of money through the whole aspect of making war. So under the River Styx, under the obelisk, is they conduct a ceremony there. Below that 111 is they have a triangle there, and this triangle is reminiscent of our sacrum that is in our spinal column. It's the third bone. The first bone that we have at the bottom is what they call the tailbone and the coccyx, and the third bone is the sacrum, and the sacrum is a triangle. And the sacrum is where the Kundalini energy is, where the serpent is coiled around the sacrum 3.5 times. So these people are conducting these black arts under Washington, D.C. at a specific time period. Now, tell me.
But Gerald, can we make some comments about this tunnel they drilled through the mountain in Switzerland? How that's satanic?
Sure, by all means.
Or demonic?
Yeah, by all means. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I just, that was the beginning of the question. Then I completely concur with what you're saying about Washington, D.C. and the way it's constructed. But does anybody have anything to say about this tunnel? What is there significance to it? Because they had this very dark ceremony there. Lots of hybrid kind of beings, sort of foreshadowing, I think, the return of these demons.
Precisely what Dave and I were talking about in regards to the whole energy of Saturn or Satan. And that's the whole reason why they're developing these tunnels underground. And now let's look at the planets, for example. Mercury, Venus, let's exclude the Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Let's go backwards. Pluto is the god of the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
Oh, yeah. Plutonium. Yeah.
There you go.
Nasty.
You know, they declassified Pluto as a planet, but I think there was another reason for that. Because, you know, some people say that Earth is the third planet. It's the 7th planet if you start from the outside working in.
You got it.
That's right.
So,
And because the other planet would be what people refer to in the Bible as wormwood, or as more modern times are aware now of what was in the Sumerian tablets, I guess, would be Nibiru.
Yep. You got it. Now I want you to bring that subject back, because I want to just go back and just refresh my memory regarding this Pluto. Then the next one after Pluto is Neptune. Another name for Neptune is Poseidon. Poseidon was the king of Atlantis. And Poseidon had 10 sons, 5 sets of twins. Okay, working backwards, the god of the underworld. The question that you asked, Brian, is they're building this ground and CERN underground. They're tapping the energy of Pluto, the god of the underworld.
Mm.
Or another name for that is the grave, or Hades. You understand?
Oh yeah. Jean Paul's asking reminding us that we've got about probably 6 minutes left or so at this point. So, Jean Paul, do you want to chime in on some of this discussion and any sort of final thoughts, sort of on where you see things going over the next? I think you said you saw your timeline was like 3 years before this cleansing is going to occur on the planet.
There is a time limit. It was 3 years, but it's a few months have gone, so it's about, I'm going to say 2.5, and that's the time that we have, right? It is, one can look at it as a window. So you should do a 180 and come on the good side, or choose to live this life as you see it, and that can be very good. They call it a splitting of densities, and it is right. If you are evil, low vibrations, you will stay here, and yes, you will see nuclear bombs going off in the sunset, because your vibration is not high enough. And that's all. And I want to thank you, everybody, to inviting me over.
Oh, it's a pleasure, John Paul. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so glad I met you, Jean Paul. I'm so glad. The more enlightened people I meet, the larger my family becomes.
Well, after the show is over, we can continue the conversation if you want. I mean, I'm going to be here.
Of course.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you Jean Paul, you think that there is going to be a nuclear war? I know Barbara Three Crows talked a lot about that to me. She's had visions of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Depends where you're at spiritually. It depends. You have to remember, if you can remember all your past lives. Let's say you had 10 of them. Just say, you would know a lot more than you do know now. And that's how it works. There's people out there that do remember, quite vividly, their past lives. It's been recorded many times, but imagine throwing a spiritual ring to it. You could be highly evolved. You could be spiritually awakened.
Yeah, but you said you can see the future, right?
Yes, of course.
So you see a one possible timeline is like a nuclear war for those who do not wake up.
Yes, it is. It doesn't look good. No, it doesn't. Like I said, there is the Earth itself is a multi-dimensional planet. Okay, it can do anything. It can split itself up in 3 pieces. In a blink of an eye. And then, like I said, each piece could be a lower vibration, a higher vibration, and so forth. We are co-creators.
Yeah. So you don't see any significance to 11/11 this year. You don't think it's going to be anything really dark.
I don't. You know what? It's very hard to say. There's something coming up. There's something coming up. It's been foretold. I got a message yesterday. It's foretold that that how they explained it was it's like dominoes. You know, hit one domino, and all the dominoes go together for something at the end. Well, that's what happened yesterday. You can't change it, and that's all. That's all. And that's all I know about that.
Gerald, do you see anything on 11/11?
Oh, definitely. It's interesting what you said about 9/11, September 11th. That is, according to the ancient people, that is the birth date of the Creator's Son on September
Really?
11th.
Really?
Yes, Yeshua. Yep. Based
Now,
on
was
the star
that-
alignment.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
you know what? I mentioned this guy, Abetaruz. He was born on September 11th.
Yep. So why do you think that they created the 9/11, the bombing of the Twin Towers?
Yeah.
It's very esoteric, geared towards the negative energy of evil,
Yeah.
because
Well,
they want to
it's an
promote their
insult to
New
the
World
Creator.
agenda.
They do everything they
Pardon
can to insult the Creator. They do everything they can to turn everything
Indeed.
down. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Well, that's what they want to. Yeah, that's what they want to do. Is they want to provoke the anger of the Creator,
Yeah.
so that they can have an ultimate battle with them in the Battle of Armageddon.
Mhm.
That's what it's leading up to, what John Paul is talking about. But I foresee, and if you look at the YouTube, they're expecting that on November the 20th of this year, World War III is going to happen.
So you're saying 20, not 11/11. Okay. Well, that's close enough. Okay, folks. Well, thanks so much for joining us again on I Am Nature. A fascinating discussion of